Okay, now we are going to start with section number 2, project risk management. In this section, we are focusing on the project risk management processes. In section number 1, we focused on project management, where the sources of the potential risk that might happen in the project. Now let's focus on the project risk management itself. In this section, or in this video, or in these videos actually, we will focus on different processes that we have under project risk management. We will have planning for project risk management. It is not planning and scheduling. We are not going to put kind of activities and dependency between the activities. No, we are planning how we are going to make project risk management for a typical project. Then we have to identify the potential risks that might happen in the project. And these identified risks, we have to make some assessment or analysis. That analysis might be qualitative and might be quantitative. If it is qualitative, actually, this process, the target of this process is just to make kind of ranking of the different potential risks that we have. The ranking, like, for example, having risks with high severity, risks with medium severity, and risks with low severities. And risks might be neglected. Then, based on the results of the qualitative analysis, we might go to quantitative risk assessment. Quantitative usually is concerned with the risk potentials or potential risk that has kind of severe risk, that high severity of risks based on the qualitative analysis. So we can take those potential risks with high severity and make kind of quantitative analysis for that and find the impact of those risks if occurred on the project final deliverables. Then we have to make kind of responses for the potential risks that we have. Which responses? Which potential risks? Those risks with high severity, sometimes medium severity, we have to prepare responses. In case we have those risks happened or occurred, we have to apply those responses. And based on the responses, actually we are just planning for the responses. And then during monitoring process, if the risk occur, we have to apply the responses. Through the whole process of planning and execution of the project, we have to control the project. Actually, we are not controlling the risk itself, but we are controlling the responses that we have planned. Are those responses have been applied correct? Are those responses provided the target results out of the planned responses? Do we have to change the responses? We have to make kind of update for the responses. All of that comes under the control processes for the project. So, what is risk management? It is simply risk management is to increase the probability and impact of a positive event and to decrease the probability and impact of a negative risk. So what is positive risk? What is negative risk? Do we have positive risk? Usually we have only negative risk. How about positive risk? Let's talk about money. Money talks now. Okay. Negative risk if the prices are increasing. That's a common thing. The prices are increasing. That's happened all over the world most of the time. So that's a negative risk. How about if the prices are increasing like 1%, 2%? That's the responsibility of the planner. It is not the responsibility of the risk manager. We are talking about unexpected increase in the prices. So 1 or 2% that's expected, and that should be considered by the planner. Okay, if it increases like 20%, 25%, 30%, in this case, that's a big risk. And for sure, it is a negative risk. How about positive risk? The opposite. How about if the prices are decreasing like 20% or 25%. Actually, it is very rare, but it might happen. Sometimes it happens, and we have to consider that if the prices are decreasing like 1 or 2%, that's accepted, and that's already the responsibility of the planner from the very beginning. But if the prices are decreasing like 20% or 25% or more than that, that's the responsibility of the risk manager and the risk management team. This is simply what is positive risk is about, what is the opportunity is about. On the other side, we have the negative risk, which is threat. Threat is always there, anywhere. Anywhere in the life we have threats, and sometimes in life we have opportunities. That's why in projects, which is part of our life, usually we have threats, and sometimes we have opportunities. So again, risk management is simply to reduce threats and to enhance opportunities. How to enhance the opportunity, how exploit opportunity. This is our responsibility as the project risk management team, to exploit the opportunity, to finish the threat. Actually, you cannot finish the threat, but we are trying. We hope, we imagine that we finish the threat, but actually we are trying to reduce the threat by reducing the probability or reducing the impact. Impact on what? Okay, let's see that. Definition, or by definition, project risk is an uncertain event or condition. If it occurs, it has an effect on a project objectives. Project objective or objectives might be one objective or more than one objective. Okay, what are the objectives? Objectives are scope, time, cost, and quality. We have the common triangle, time, cost, quality, whatever the old triangle or new triangle, but we always have triple legs or triple sides of the triangle, time, cost, and quality. And whenever we are talking about a project, we have to consider the scope. Okay, how can a risk affect the objectives, affect the scope or time or cost or quality? Very simple and a very common risk we have in the project, in most of the projects, project delay. We have a project that we have to finish within 1 year. Are we going to finish that in 1 year exactly? We might finish that in 10 months, 9 months, 11 months, 14 months, 16 months. Yes, we can. It is not on purpose, but it is based on the progress of the project. So simply, if we are going to finish that before the deadline, before 12 months, that's an opportunity. How can we exploit it? If we are going to finish that in 14 months or even 13 months, that's a negative risk. That's a threat for the project. We may pay fine for that, for being behind schedule for the project. So in this case, we have to pay penalty for the delay. So we are in cost risk and time risk. How about quality? Usually, whenever we have quality challenges in the project, that usually has an impact on time and on cost. Actually, whenever we are talking about an issue in the project, it has an impact on the cost. Whatever the main issue is, scope issue, time issue, quality issue, it has an impact on the cost. That's usually cost is the most important side of the triangle in the KPIs of any project. So a risk might have impact on the scope or time or cost or quality or 2 of them or 3 of them or all 4 of them. But usually most of the risks that we have in the project, usually they have impact on time and or cost. Sometimes we have issues or risks that might have impact on quality. In rare cases, we have risks that might have impact on scope. Okay, cost, time and cost usually are very variable. We cannot stick to specific time and specific budget to a project. Always we have kind of positive or negative change with those two items, time and cost. But for the quality, we have to stick to the quality. It is difficult to have kind of deviation from this, from the quality specs that we have for all items or any single item that we have in the project. Once we have defined the specs of all the items, item by item, in this case, we have to stick to those specs. We have to achieve those specs unless the sponsor or his representative has agreed to change of those specs. And again, we have to stick to that changed specs as well. For the scope, it is more difficult because the scope of the project usually is very strict. It is very difficult to change the scope, especially if we have achieved some activities or many activities or most of the activities that we have in the project. Changing the scope will have impact on the budget. If you are increasing the scope, which is very, very rare, we have to find how can we are getting that excess of money. If we are reducing the scope, we have to study that. Does that is gonna have impact on the feasibility of the project, the financial feasibility, technical feasibility, marketing feasibility? So changing the scope is more harder than changing the quality. But changing time and cost is very common in most of the projects. Okay, so again, risk is an uncertain event. If it occurs, it has an impact on the project objectives. What are the project objectives? Time, cost, quality, and for sure, the scope. Okay, risk has a cause or more, 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. If it occurs, has an impact or more, impact or 2 or 3 or 4 or more. So what are the causes? Again, let's consider the delay risk. The delay risk has a single cause, maybe. Could be kind of a productivity that we have for the manpower or for some of the equipments. It could be for the delay in the payment. It could be kind of financial challenge. Could be one of them. And it could be more than one of them. It could be other than that. So in this case, we have one or more causes for the delay of the project. Okay, how about the impact? The impact of the delay. The delay for sure has an impact on the time, one of the objectives of the project. And usually it has an impact on the cost. As we mentioned, we might pay fine. It is not fine, but we have to pay fine. Okay, sometimes the delay may cause kind of change in the specs. That's impact on the quality. If the delay is very severe, if we have too long period of stoppage of the activities of the project, in this case, we might reduce the scope, especially if we're talking about something related to technology. If we're not talking about construction. In construction, changes are not as fast as that for technological projects like IT projects, communication project. If you have a delay with one of those projects, IT, communication, and similar fast developing technologies, you are in trouble. So you have to consider the scope as well. Okay, now about known risks and unknown risks. We are trying to make kind of categorization for the identified risks. How can we identify risk and how we are going to categorize those risks? We have what's called known risks and we have what's known as unknown risks. Okay, what is known risks are those that have been identified and analyzed because we know them, we have experience with them. Those risks happened already. It was an issue. These were issues in previous projects that we suffered from. We have experienced those before, but not in all projects. If that's in all projects, that could be part of the plan. But if there's kind of rare cases or low probability cases like 10%, 20%, 30%, in this case, those are potential risks, and we have to consider them in our project risk management if the impact is considerable. If you are assuming that those might happen, but the impact is like 1/1,000,000 of the budget, in this case, we don't have to consider them. But if the probability is 10% and the impact on the cost is going to be like 20, 30%, in this case, we have to consider them as part from our risk plan, risk management plan, or risk management register, as we are going to see later on. So based on our experience, we have our expected known risks. Unknown risks are risks that might happen, but we never thought about. We never think about those risks because we never have experience with those risks before. But always there is the first time that might happen in this project. But still, if it is the first time in this project, we don't have experience from the zero time that happened before. So that's why it is unknown risks. So how can we manage that? We can manage that by adding contingency for the unknown risks. Somebody will ask me, how much can we add that contingency? I don't know. It's based on your experience with previous projects about the percentile of unknown risks. Again, if it is in technological project, that's a high amount. That could be like 40, 50%. But if we are talking about construction projects, we have frequent projects in our experience. We have frequent projects in others' experience. So having kind of unknown risks in our industry, which is construction, is very rare. But we have to consider that in our contingency plan, but not as much as 40, 50% as it might be in the case of IT and